So today is June 8th, 2022. I'm Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard, and you're watching The Pipeline. Today I'm joined, as always, by my good friends, Western Standard news editor Dave Naylor. How are you, Dave?
Doing great, Derek. The Oilers have been eliminated. All is right in the world again.
That's all that matters to you, right?
That they didn't go on and win. Yes, correct. This week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. All right. Also joined by Western Standard opinion and broadcast editor Cory Morgan. Cory, you don't really care at all, do you?
Not really.
Yeah.
I save my rage for political issues.
Yeah. That's a lot of rage.
It is.
There's a lot of hurt in those eyes.
They feed me a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got a lot of hurt for you today. Today we're going to be talking about Calgary City Council's $87 billion. $87 billion climate change crusade. You heard that right. $87 billion from a city with a little over 1 million people. We're not making that up. Holy hell. Okay, we're going to get into it. You're going to love it. Speaking of other giant, almost unbelievable numbers, 600,000 plus are now eligible to vote, expected to be able to vote in the Federal Conservative Party of Canada's leadership contest. That is, I think, more than twice as much who have ever voted in a Federal Conservative Party leadership race. It is an absolutely gargantuan figure that is either going to make predicting things much more complicated, or, if Pierre Poilievre is right, much more simple to call. Absolutely astounding numbers. So we're going to talk about that, what it means for the Federal Conservative leadership race. And speaking of, today's about big numbers. It's a big number day. But with the United Conservative Party leadership race in Alberta, the big number is the number of people running. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 confirmed. Is it just 6 so far? At least 6 confirmed and in the race formally. 2 that we know about who are actively kicking the tires, or maybe a bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get near a dozen there. We're going to talk about the crowded field shaping up for the United Conservative Party of Alberta's leadership race, and the different dimensions we're going to see there. Before we get started, though, I want to thank all of our Western Standard members for your kick-ass support. You guys have signed up in massive numbers, and it is allowing us to reinvest that money into hiring more reporters, more journalists, more support staff to provide quality, independent, bailout-free journalism for you right across Western Canada. We've now got our bureaus set up, not just with our headquarters in Calgary, but in Edmonton at the legislature, in Vancouver, Regina, Parliament Hill, and freelancers sprinkled everywhere in between. We're very grateful to you for that support. If you're not yet a member, go to westernstandard.news and click on membership. It's only $10 a month or $99 a year. You're going to love it. Let's start with our first sponsor, though, of the day, Canadian Shooting Sports Association. I love the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. I've been a member for over a decade, trusting them with my membership dues to protect my right as a gun owner in Canada. And boy, we've had some fun stuff around guns actually around here. As you all know, the federal Liberal government has announced a freeze on handguns in Canada. You're not going to be able to buy them anymore. This is clearly leading up to an outright ban on handguns. I think there could be a massive nautical accident in Canada where about 1 million to 2 million handguns get lost in canoeing accidents or something. But in the meantime, there's been a massive run on handguns in Canada. Everybody who's eligible to buy them is buying them up. I'm buying them all. I don't know. I'm not buying any if you're watching RCMP, CSIS, whoever's watching this. No, I'm not buying any guns. I don't like guns. But to support the other people around here, because there's a big rush on guns, I announced kind of whimsically that we're going to lend, the Western Standard was going to lend all of our employees up to $500 to buy a handgun or other restricted licensed firearms. And I didn't think this was going to be a big thing. I kind of put it on Twitter. Turned out to get in like the Toronto Star. It kind of blew up. People in Toronto are like, look at these wild rednecks buying guns. But it caught some news, and we had a firearms wholesaler south of Calgary contact me and saying, we love what you guys do, and we're going to give a discount on guns to everyone who works at the Western Standard. So, I mean, every job's got its perks, right? Exactly. You get a loan for guns, and now you get discounts for guns. Dave, you got to get in the gun race. You got to get in the arms race.
I'm just waiting to see the catalog.
Yeah. Anyway, to defend your right to have those guns. The right to own guns in Canada has never been more perilously at risk than right now. So you should be a member of the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. These guys are where it's at. Without people like the Canadian Shooting Sports Association, we would have lost our rights to have firearms in Canada long ago, and that's hanging by a thread. Corey, where can we find out more about them?
They are at cssa-cila.org.
Okay, let's get into the first topic. We're not making this number up. I thought it was fake news when I first saw it. I said, no, this is clearly not real. Calgary City Council might be crazy, but like this is clearly a made-up number. It's impossible, not realistic. Come back to me with some facts, and you're like, no, Derek, it's $87 billion. Because I could hear Dr. Evil say, $87 billion. The camera zooms in on him. Dave, what the hell's going on?
It's a staggering amount of money. It would break down to more than $3 billion a year. Imagine that, $3 billion. The entire operating budget for the city is only $4.5 billion. So it's just to give you some comparison. $87 billion has got to be more than the GNP of some small African nations, I'm sure. So it's a huge amount of money, and it's a lot of pie in the sky. And we have to do it. And the city council met today behind closed doors. I think Mayor Gondek wanted to deal with it today. Saner Voices put it over to July 5th, which caused Mayor Gondek to say that investors watching this, they're going to take their money elsewhere. I mean, how ludicrous is that? If any smart investor is thinking $87 billion, I mean, holy cow, ludicrous. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how the plans break down and where it goes from here.
Corey, is this real? Is this just a couple of nutters trying to send a virtue signal on the council that, just show how much, like, I'm more climate change than anyone, like, I'm going to climate change the shit out of you kind of thing, and they're just trying to send a signal, like, this is like the Green New Deal in the States, not actually going to go anywhere? Or is this a real thing?
I wish it was just a couple nutters, but I mean, this is a report commissioned from city administration that they put out. And the way that the city council, the mayor, and the pair of Courtneys and Giancarlo Corra and the usual left cadre of city council are hard on with the push to embrace this thing in full. This is real, and they want this entrenched. I mean, Gondek was ticked off that they didn't just drop this on Calgarians and embrace it and have council vote to take it on, with a couple of days' notice. As they're saying, we held a referendum over the Olympics that were going to cost $1 or $2 billion, perhaps. And Gondek wanted this shoved through council and entrenched in city spending with 2 or 3 days debate. I mean, they're obsessed with this thing.
So $87 billion, the Canadian, the Department of National Defense, Canada's military department, I would just Google and quickly here, I could be wrong, but it seems about right. Now, we don't spend a lot on the military in Canada, but it is still a lot of money that we spend, even if it's not a lot comparatively for a country our size. We spend about $20 billion a year. So the city of Calgary is proposing to spend about 4.5 years worth of the Canadian Armed Forces military budget. Dave, instead of climate change, should just Calgary create its own army?
Well, what about a big dome? I mean, if we do spend all this money on climate change and Okotoks grows and doesn't do anything, we're going to get all their smog, aren't we?
Okay, so this is a new segment called "What Else Can We Spend the Money On?" So, okay, I'm voting. You can't give it back to taxpayers because that's just too good an answer and it's not very fun. We have to spend the money. So I'm voting. Calgary is going to create its own armed forces, but it's going to be heavy on the Navy. We're going to have an aircraft carrier, and we can park it right in the Glenmore Reservoir.
Right by the SS Moye.
Yeah. So the Calgary Armed Forces, we're going to be really big on the Navy, but the aircraft carrier is not going to have any money left over for planes. But we're going to have an aircraft carrier. That's my vote. So I'm voting aircraft carrier / Calgary Armed Forces, but heavy on the Navy. I'm a Navy guy myself. Dave, what do we spend the money on?
I'll be a bit more sensible. Hospitals, hiring doctors.
Go back to the dome. The dome was way better.
Or a dome.
Fun. Like we got some one time. You got $87 billion.
Okay, yeah,
Come
then
on, we're
we
having
can
fun.
dome the city in that case.
We're gonna dome the city.
But it's got to be a retractable dome so airplanes can take off and land.
Well, maybe
Build another airport outside.
yeah. Like we're not letting Airdrie in.
No, they don't pay taxes.
No, screw Airdrie.
Screw Airdrie.
Yeah.
Set up a big toll
Screw you,
booth.
Airdrie. Okay, Cory, what are you spending money on? You got $87 billion. Go.
Yeah, well, I mean, presuming then that means we leave climate change alone, which obviously, I mean, Gondek said it's an emergency. So the temperature is going to go up on average 10, 20 degrees.
Well, no. Dave solves climate change because it's going to be a climate-controlled dome.
Oh,
It
yeah.
actually would do.
Well,
We
you see,
actually could control the climate that
I
way.
don't want the dome. I want us to keep ramping it up. I want that extra 10 or 20 degrees because one thing Alberta really lacks is lakes. We got $87 billion. We can make a big beachfront. You can look at the aircraft carrier off in the distance, palm trees, pineapple plantations. I mean, this is an emergency. Clearly, the climate is going to heat up fast if we don't spend that $87 billion
Where are you putting
on
the lakes?
anything else.
Where are you putting the lake?
Forest Lawn could use a wash.
Jeez.
Oh, this is getting dark. This is getting dark real
I'd
quick.
recommend footwear when you're walking on the beach, though.
Okay, so I'm voting aircraft carrier. Dave says a dome, and Cory says lakes. So you want to speed up climate change?
Yes, a nice hot resort. Let's be tropical. Let's get on with this.
Okay. It kind of means we don't really need the dome anymore if we can actually just speed up global warming.
Yes, I guess it depends how long it takes.
Yeah. But then when we have beachfront property, we're going to have to defend it. We're going to need that aircraft
We're gonna
carrier.
need the
So
Navy.
we can use a combination of these things. We can work this budget out. $87 billion. That's a
It's
lot,
a lot of money.
Maybe we could buy every house in Airdrie and just demolish it. Just make, flatten it.
Your goal is Airdrie
We
genocide.
really do have it for Airdrie.
He started it.
Well, this is my new favorite segment. What do we spend it on? Okay, more big numbers. 600,000 people plus are believed, it's not yet confirmed by the party, but based on what we know, we pretty credibly believe that there's going to be at least 600,000, more than well over 500,000 people eligible to vote in the Conservative Party of Canada's leadership race. Dave, tell us what we know about this.
As you said, $600,000, and think about 600,000 new members. You think about it; they each paid $10, they got a significantly higher number than Trudeau and the Liberals did when they were giving away memberships for free. Pierre Poilievre has announced he's got more than 300,000, and he's encouraged the party to be open about it and show who's got one. Apparently, Patrick Brown has laughably said he's got 150,000. No idea how or why. I think he's probably too busy figuring out whether he's going to run for mayor of Brampton again. Jean Charest hasn't commented specifically, but he has said there is a path to victory. Didn't say for who, but most people assumed he was talking about himself. So that's a lot of processing that they still have to do down at CPC headquarters, and they'll be spending a lot of the summer doing that.
That is going to be a lot of paperwork. Our staff, we've hired surge staff for the summer to deal with our memberships, and well, we've had a lot of memberships. It's not in the universe of 600,000.
No.
That is wild. Cory, the only two campaigns to release hard numbers, and I say hard numbers loosely, softly. I'm speaking softly when I say hard numbers, is Poilievre and Brown. Poilievre's number is insane, but it feels believable because we've seen the turnout at their rallies. It would not really make sense for them to. Campaigns inflate these things in general, but I don't think they would be inflating too much. I don't want to be unfair to Patrick Brown, but there is a real feeling that his kind of braggadocious release, about 150,000, is a bit suspect. How likely do you think it is that he's actually sold 150,000 memberships to his name?
I mean, word is that he'd been hitting the ground very hard, very quietly, because he was refusing pretty much all media as well. But that he'd been targeting ethnic communities and selling, you could presumably or ostensibly sell block memberships to large groups of people and numbers of people. So maybe it's possible. The bigger question isn't just how many have been sold, but who can get them out.
How many of them are going to vote?
Yeah, because that's the other half of the battle. You've got to galvanize. I mean, getting a bunch of names on memberships, that's great, but turnouts and leaderships can be terribly low. And it's not just what's spent, as you mentioned with the Liberals, even when they were free, they couldn't get that many. And then the turnout for that leadership was terrible with an online vote at that. So it depends on who can get those out. I mean, can Poilievre get all of those out? he's always worked strategically. I mean, you notice off the start, as soon as the race he announced he was in, constantly tweeting this petition, this petition, this petition. I might as well let that political secret out, guys. When you sign those, it's data mining. You're giving.
They're not
a
tabling
list.
those positions in Parliament. They're collecting email addresses.
Yeah. And then they follow up and sell memberships on it. But that the next step, they're not worth anything to you if they don't go out and vote.
We saw something I think similar potentially with Kenny's campaign to remain as UCP leader. He really targeted ethnic communities, and they did play a role in helping make him UCP leader. You can sometimes turn them out, and obviously, it's campaigns should include minority communities. It's an important part. It's including more people in the democratic process. But the campaigns that focus mostly or exclusively on that tend to go a bit sideways. Kenny largely focused on those kind of ethnic and religious minority communities, and there is a voter motivation issue. With Kenny, the people against him were very motivated. They came out in big numbers. They voted against him. Voting in ethnic politics is a bit more transactional often. It's less motivational. It's harder to turn them out. They didn't turn out in the numbers that the Kenny campaign believed that they would to save them. And I got to believe that, someone who goes to a Poliver rally and, Poliver says privatize the CBC and destroy the Bank of Canada, that person who signed up is going to be a bit more motivated than, someone that signed up at some luncheon for some kind of ethnic transactional politics.
Brown's campaign is just, I've never seen anything like it.
No.
It's just a sound of silence campaign, and it derailed a little bit. He's got the support of 4 MPs, 2 of them left this week to join Poilievre. So he's only got two supporters, 2 MPs left, one of them being Calgary MP Michelle Rempel, who still really hasn't explained why she tied her horse to that wagon. It's a strange thing. I would be stunned if he really did sell 150,000, because that would probably put him in second place, even ahead of Charest.
If he did in fact sell 150,000, he would be in contention to overtake Charest. I guess maybe we're being unfair to Lewis or something here and Bapper, but I think reasonably we can expect Charest has been treated as the major challenger to Poliver. Brown potentially could become the one who would take him to the final ballot if he actually did sell 150,000. But as we were saying, if that 150,000 is not including any ideologically motivated conservative voters, which doesn't really appear to be the case, and it's just purely kind of ethnic politics, I don't think there's going to be a particularly high voter turnout on that 150,000. 300,000, though, if Poliver didn't manage to convince a single existing Conservative Party member to vote for him, and he sold 300,000, he has a chance of winning it on the first ballot with just the new signups. And in many provinces, it's a quadrupling of the membership. Now let's remember, this is a point system. It's not one member, one vote. If you live in rural southern Alberta, your vote counts about 100 times less than if you live in, say, Montreal, generally, because it's a point system. Each riding's weighed equally, regardless of how many members it has, as long as you have 100 people voting or more in that riding. So, that's what Charest is saying, is there's a point system, and based on the point system, I can win. But what Poliver's claiming with Quebec is that, they've sold, how many? 11,000 in Quebec or something like that. And if that was the case, then Charest claimed that he was going to win every single of the 78 seats in Quebec. That's probably not the case anymore. Is there any path to victory for anyone besides Poliver anymore?
As you kind of said, I mean, if somebody was really campaigning across the country and did a very good strategic campaign of membership sales, that they could pull something off. I mean, as you pointed out with that, though, that is a death knell for Brown. Even if he did sell 150,000 memberships, those are concentrated in this community, this community, this community. They are not spread out. So, I mean, he's not going to win that variety of ridings that he would have to make an impact. If the numbers were inaccurate, I think Poilievre might have it in the bag.
I think we have to point out that this is it. You can't go out and sell any more membership. The deadline's passed. So, I mean, God knows what they're going to do between now and September. Charest can't try and get back in it by selling more memberships.
So let's talk about the next stage then. There's no more new members. The list is locked in. If you're not on the list, you can't vote. So let's talk about next stages. now the campaigns have there's two more stages. There's persuasion of the members, people who are already members of the Conservative Party of Canada. You want to now you want to fight for them, and then after that, get out the vote, go TV, mobilizing them to put in their ballots, get counted, turn them out. Cory, what do you expect to see now that we're in the persuasion phase? What do you expect to see from the major campaigns?
It's going to be hard because that's a real tough one. People traditionally they vote very much. They'll dance with the one that brung them when it comes to that. So it takes a lot.
But let's focus on the existing membership. There are things you can do with the new members. You could maybe try to flip them, but for the most part, people who sign up with Poliver are probably going to vote for Poliver. Yeah. People who signed up with Charest are probably going to vote for Charest. But the existing, I should say, the pre-existing membership before the campaign started.
Maybe they'd move a little more on to more where Charest was, I think, in saying, because he's always said, I'm the one who can win. Now it's, the existing members, you got the members. Okay, well, I'm just guessing, but maybe they'll take a bit of a strategy. Okay, I'm the one who will take us over the finish line in the general election when we get the chance. Not so much on individual policies. These are already Conservatives. You got them in or they already came in. Now, why am I the person who's going to make us the party in power again?
But that message hasn't been working. That's been his message since the very first day. His slogan when he launched at the Wild Rose Brewery in Calgary here, he said, built to win. That was on the podium. That's a slogan.
And I think
that has not really been working.
I think Poilievre is going to start embracing a bit more of that too now. I'm just guessing, as the campaign's going to shift. The other thing is they're really going to hope that something tears Poilievre down. They're going to be watching because that's the only other hope they've got. I mean, is he going to get into a scandal? Is there going to be a stumble? Is he, caught in something that's just going to derail his campaign? So, but I don't know if constantly attacking him will work.
I'm interested, and you as an ex-politician, Derek, may know, what do you do between now and September? I think people are sick of politics and they look forward to the summer where they don't have to deal with it or listen to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, does he go to the barbecue? Does he go on the barbecue circuit? There's important Conservative barbecues probably in every province, certainly in Calgary. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that his best bet? Is that Charest's best bet?
The traditional front-runner strategy is when you're a front-runner, when you're ahead, stop talking. That's what Doug Ford did. Doug Ford in Ontario was ahead, and he just didn't show it. He didn't talk to the press, really. If he had an event, the press may or may not even been invited, and even if they were invited, he didn't talk to them. He didn't really campaign on it. They didn't even have a platform. He's like, otherwise, I'm going to build some roads and get it done. Like, that was it. That's a front-runner strategy, and that often works. Now, what I saw, I think it was last night, Anthony Koch, he's the press secretary of Pierre Poilievre. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but maybe we'll pull it up here. But he more or less said, someone was saying like, why is Poilievre still attacking? I think someone from the Charest or Brown campaign said, if Poilievre really has the so in the bag, why is he still attacking our candidates? And Poilievre's press secretary said, that's the mistake front runners often make. And that's why the last two front runners of the Conservative Party actually didn't win. We're never going to stop attacking you. We're going to continue to go for you. He was just like a Jack Russell Terrier, just saying, I'm not going to stop until we got you, until they're done. I'm getting the distinct impression from the Poilievre campaign. Maybe they'll switch, but I'm getting the distinct impression they're going to campaign for the jugular to the very, very end. Now, remember that I think his attacks, though, are very targeted. He's not going after some of the candidates who he's expecting support on the down ballot, ones who are more ideologically aligned. Leslyn Lewis, Roman Baber. I don't think he said anything about Acheson, but Acheson's not really got any strong. No. I haven't seen much in the way of distinctive policy from him other than saying, let's get along. But he's gone hard at Brown, and he's gone hard at Charest. And I don't think it doesn't appear right now like he's going to go into a traditional front runner, take it easy kind of campaign, because it's a dangerous thing to do.
If it's not broke, why, don't need to fix it, right? I mean, it's worked so far. It's got him record numbers of people signing up, more than 300,000. Might as well keep it up.
Yeah. Oh, what do you expect to see now?
I really don't. I'm not sure. I mean, it's as you said, he might keep that up. I mean, the other part is, as you said, the final phase is the get out the vote. And it means that you've got your existing supporters, but you do have to keep them excited. I mean, they don't want to see the guy they signed up for go silent for 3 months on a strategic, plan. They still want to see him active, see him out there taking some of the jabs and getting some of those policy points out, I guess. So he'll carry on. And I think maybe, I still have a suspicion that Brown is truly a stalking horse candidate. And if there's a way you're going to try and derail Poilievre, that would be the one you're going to use to try and do it, to try and knock him off his guard or invoke a scandal or something of the sort. So when you get one out in the front that far, you get some desperation too, and you can see some, it's politics. People get weird and stupid. We could see some crazy tactics.
More likely than anything changing from Poilievre is I think we could start seeing some real Hail Marys from Patrick Brown and Jean Charest. I think they know that unless something radically changes, Poilievre is going to walk right into this. Unless there's some kind of implosion on Poilievre's part, I just can't see anyone beating him at this point.
I mean, they're hoping for it. So,
okay. We're going to talk quickly, very briefly about another sponsor of ours, Bitcoin Well. Cory.
Sure, Bitcoin Well. It's one I talk about a lot. It's because I like them. Well, it's because they're a sponsor, but they're a good one. They're an Alberta company, a Western company. If you're looking to get into digital currencies, I mean, right now we're looking at a time when you can't rely on the state and their currencies. Inflation is running rampant. You're looking to hedge your bets or just curious about digital currencies. Bitcoin Well is there. If you go to their site, bitcoinwell.com, it's deep, it's educational. It shows you what Bitcoin is, how you would get involved in it, how you can use it for practical uses like paying utility bills or use the ATMs they have all across the country. And they got free one-on-one consultations. If you want to sit down face-to-face with a real person and talk about it, they will set that up risk-free. Check them out if you're interested in digital currencies, bitcoinwell.com. They're the place to start.
Beauty. It's all huge. And our the UCP leadership race list is getting huge. Huge. So far, by my count, we've got Brian Jean, Danielle Smith, Travis Taves, Todd Lowen, Leela here, Rock. What's Rock's?
Mayor
Rock?
Mayor
Just
Rock.
call Mayor Rock.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Jim. He was on
Jim?
the show the other day, yeah.
Okay. Jim who?
Rock.
That was a joke.
Oh, I missed
Joe
it.
who?
Yes.
Okay. Dated. Okay. Those are the ones confirmed, either officially registered or have announced and are in. Still question marks over Michelle Rempel-Garner and Drew Barnes and maybe a few others. It's a big list. Am I missing anyone who we are expecting, or at least is kicking the tires right now?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think it's anybody unexpected that's announced so far. You could probably predict them a few months ago, apart from Mayor Rock, of course. We'd actually never heard of him. But yeah, now the interesting thing, I think all attention is going to focus right now on Michelle Rempel-Garner and what she's going to do. I personally think she realizes she's probably done in Ottawa now, aligning herself with Brown. So if Poilievre wins, there's no hope for her to be in a cabinet position, I wouldn't think. So yeah, she's going to be interesting. And then you've got Drew Barnes, who's, I think, desperate to lead something. And we'll see if he throws his hat in the ring. He's been certainly mulling it for a while.
Actually, I did leave some names off. Rebecca Scholes. She is, I think, a cabinet minister.
She is.
Yeah. And then one other name, she's from Northeast Calgary.
Oh, and she's declared. Boy,
Is she declared?
That is a declared candidate. She was the Minister of
Children's Services or something?
Transportation.
Yes. What's her name?
And I slaughtered her name on the last show, and you got on my case for it. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
And I don't want to embarrass myself.
Okay. Well,
Well,
we're going to get that in a second.
Yeah.
So that'd be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at least, and then 8, 9, 10 maybe. And who knows who else? Cory. We should run Cory for fun just to see what happens.
Yeah, Rick Bell used to run for mayor. We might as well run Cory for.
Rick Bell ran for mayor?
Oh yeah, he did very
That
respectable.
was a great. That's why he used to have his black hat.
Yeah.
Were these serious campaigns, or was he
Oh,
just
yeah,
running for
no,
serious?
it was a serious campaign.
That was in the
Back-
90s. Yeah.
I remember I was at the Sun at the time, and I think he was in his drinking days. It was
It was
See,
good fun.
sober Rick Bell wouldn't do that. Actually, I don't
he
know.
might,
I don't know.
he
Right?
might,
He's
he might.
just as much a character now.
Okay.
So that's Rajan
Sani.
There we
Rajan
go.
Sani.
Are you sure she's declared?
She announced she's going for it. Yeah.
Oh well, I haven't done a story on that. That's kind of bad on my part.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
triple check that.
Okay, we got to
There's a lot.
convince Rick Bell to run. But let's get the dinger. That'd be fun.
We'd endorse him.
If you like the idea of Rick Bell running, put it in the comments. If there's enough, we're going to send this to the dinger.
Draft Rick Bell.
Draft Rick Bell. If you like the idea, write in the comments and then a hashtag draft the dinger. draft dinger.
Drafting.
And if there's enough, we're gonna send this. We're gonna send this to him and see if we can get the dinger for Premier. Why not?
Why not, indeed?
But my only condition for supporting Rick Bell is he has to start drinking again.
I'm not sure that's good for his health.
It's good for Alberta. Hey, remember when Ralph Klein stopped drinking? That's when Ralph Klein started to suck.
No, but Rick's still good and crazy and goofy enough sober. I mean, come on. Even I dried out. Look, I'm still an asshole. It doesn't have to change with sobriety. We can still have a good time.
But Ralph Klein was better as a drinker, right? Like everyone agrees.
That period of his time, he was more effective.
He got really soft when he quit.
Yeah. No more $20 bills at homeless people.
That wasn't very nice to do. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Just trying to help.
It was kind of a mean thing. It was not very nice. Okay, well, let's get your tops. Like, who? It's a big race. Lots of people run for all sorts of reasons. Not everyone actually even thinks they have a chance of winning. You just want to talk about your policies. Sometimes you want to talk about just a couple of issues. Let's talk about some of the newer entrants. We've already talked about Jean Smith, Taves, but we haven't talked a lot about the others. We talked a bit about Rempel before because we had a scoop last week that she's actively considering running. We've got reporters who are still digging around that now. Things might be closer to a decision, but we're still waiting on a confirmation there. Leela here had an interesting launch, a very unconventional place for someone of a Conservative Party to launch a campaign.
Yeah, the Ryan Jesperson show, a left-wing leading NDP-type digital radio broadcast.
Yeah.
Well, that seems strange if you're running for the leadership of a right-wing party.
Yeah. Corey, did that strike you as odd, or is this just some kind of, is it smart outreach maybe to go to kind of a left-wing broadcast show like that, or?
No, I don't think it is at all, particularly in a party race. I mean, this is a guy who, maybe if you're looking at a general election, you're trying to say we're trying to broaden the tent and win, but I mean, for the segment of, and Jesperson shows more than just a little left. I mean, he's been beating the crap out of the UCP since that party's been founded. And his audience are definitely people who don't like it. I mean, at best, sure, you could round up some people who'd say, we'll support your leadership because we want to take a chip out of the UCP, but that's going to be such a tiny segment of the real membership when it gets made. It was a bizarre place to kick off a campaign. It really was. I just don't see what she's thinking. I mean, you want to stand out, you want to look unique. That's a way to do it, but strategically, I don't see how that's good whatsoever.
Yeah. It seemed like if Trump was launching his trade policy from an announcement in China, it doesn't make sense.
Go on his show by all means, of course, but just as a kickoff. I mean, that's sort of setting your tone. That's saying where we're looking to go. And I'm certain, she was a former cabinet minister, had enough profile. There's a number of media outlets.
You should get her on a show that maybe has a few more conservatives watching. Maybe you should try to get her on your show.
We'll see. I mean, I'll be reaching out to every candidate, of course. Yeah. And just to correct, it was Bill Rock, who is the mayor of Amisk. I don't want to get the wrong name out for that gentleman. So, yeah, he was on the show the other day with his.
Okay. Well, let's talk really quickly about Bill Rock. Who is he, Dave? He's
the mayor of
Amisk,
which is, I think, just a small town of a couple hundred people. Excuse me. He's been involved in UCP's politics at a lower level. Attempted to run, I think, in the last election. So.
No, he ran for Wild Rose in 2015, I think.
2015. Yeah. So he's sort of been he's sort of all rural all the time. He wants more of a focus on rural issues. Corey, you talked to him.
That's a lot of what I got out of the interview on the show. His platform, he says he's still filling it out. I mean, he didn't even have a website up yet, but he has registered. I mean, there's some degree of seriousness.
He launched a campaign without a website first?
Yeah. But he's saying it's going to be...
That's that bad rural internet.
Yes.
We
need more broadband.
That was one of his issues he was talking about. There was rural, a rural voice in there. He's definitely a very long shot, but maybe I'm sure he probably knows that too. Sometimes people just get in just so they can get some of their messaging out, though. We'll see if he makes the deposit and all that.
Well, another rural voice and actually the second Grand Prairie voice. We're very heavy on Grand Prairie candidates in this. Very funny. Todd Lowen. Todd Lowen, he's a fascinating guy. I served with him when I was in the Wild Rose. He was famous when we'd have late night sittings. He'd make waffles for everyone. They were really, really good waffles. And he has this bizarre number of waffle irons because he's an outfitter. He does like hunting. He's like a hunting tour guide. And so he's got this cabin with just like 100 waffle irons. And so he'd bring like 100 waffle irons or something crazy to the legislature. He's a very interesting guy. Kenny says it wasn't him, but Kenny had him and Drew Barnes kicked out of the caucus about a year ago, I guess it was. for criticizing his leadership, saying that he should resign. But so we have an independent who's not a member of the party's caucus who's running. It'd be very funny because I don't think he can win, but if he did, it'd be funny because the caucus would have to vote on letting the leader back into caucus.
He in his launch last night, he actually took the mickey out of Kenny and his blue truck. He says, "I'm not here for that type of blue truck. I'm here for blue truck Albertans." Basically saying, I think Kenny had become an elitist and one part of the old Tory crowd. So, he's going to liven up the campaign, obviously, because he's not afraid to speak his mind.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be a long shot for Todd, but I mean, he's definitely built some profile for himself. He's more known now since he kind of became kind of a leader in that fight against Kenny internally. What kind of impact do you think he can have on the race?
He can have a significant one, I think. I mean, he speaks very directly and much to the I guess you could say the Wildrose, faction of the party, of the merged party. Him and Drew were kind of the two stalwarts, from those older party days being back there. And that could be a number of people on the ground who'll stand up for it, saying we want to push back against, say, that progressive conservative feel or that establishment feel with the other candidates. And Lowen can pull that together around himself. So.
And 49% of UCP members voted against Kenny. So that's a good chunk of population that may appeal to, that Todd may appeal to them. Mm-hmm. Because, look, we didn't like Kenny. This guy stood up to Kenny, and Kenny kicked him out. So I think he could have a fairly significant role.
He's long, but I think he'll have an impact.
So his seatmate in the legislature out in Siberia, where I've sitting for time, he is Drew Barnes, kicked out at the same time. Drew Barnes didn't even call for Kenny's resignation. He was just a general pain in the ass, and they were getting rid of Todd. Kenny's like, him too. Just while we're at it, let's just get rid of Drew. Drew's a pain in the ass. So Drew's been out. He's kicking the tires, contemplating running, but he's been kicking a lot of tires for a very long time of different parties and different ideas. What's the over-under? Is he likely to run?
He's probably sitting back and sort of seeing what kind of reaction Todd Lowen gets, I would think. He's a smart man politically. I don't think that he thinks he can win, would be my guess. And if he doesn't think he can win, I'm not sure he will run.
Okay. Rebecca Scholes. What's she the minister of?
Isn't it Child Services?
I don't know. It's usually a death ministry, that one. She did all right if that's the one, because that's usually where you really...
Yeah, either way, it's a problem if we don't know what ministry she is, and she's a minister running...
that's more indicative of the problem with the Kenny government, to be honest. I mean, we had a lot of ministers you never even heard from because everything was Kenny. So that's this is an additional issue while we're at it, right? We do have ministers who've sat and we don't know who the heck they are.
So Rajan, so I don't know how much impact she's going to have, but let's get her on your show and hear from her directly. But we haven't heard much in terms of what her campaign's about.
I mean, you've got a list of 12, 13, but in reality, it's probably only 4 or 5 people that have a chance.
Well, we got to wait for them to release what is the requirement for entry going to be.
Yeah, and that's coming next week. We had a story up there on the site today. They're still working on it. They haven't got it all figured out yet, but it'll be next week.
They got Price in charge of that. And if they set it at a reasonable amount, a lot of people might enter. But if it's really, really high, well, it's going to keep it back.
So I want to quickly talk about Rajan Sawhney. Now that we got her name right, I don't know her. But she's kept a pretty low profile during all of this. She has been somewhat critical of Kenny, even though she was a cabinet minister, which is quite interesting. Cabinet ministers do not get publicly critical of their leaders. It's rare enough for an MLA or MP, but especially for a cabinet minister. But I think she represents a constituency in Northeast Calgary, a lot of ethnic and religious minorities. But I've heard, a lot of old-time Wildrosers actually speak fairly highly of her, at least as a very competent minister. Corey, do you think she's going to have any kind of serious impact in the race?
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't know her. I don't know much about her, to be honest. But I mean, there's when we talk about some of the political play, she's got a constituency that has a lot of motivated voters you can target. I mean, Northeast Calgary, that's the hornet's nest of party politics. A lot of engaged members up there, as you said, of religious and ethnic minorities. I mean, they don't all vote necessarily the same way, of course not, but there's definite defined blocks that can be campaigned to and brought out. So I imagine that's where her strategy is going to begin. and it could pay off.
Well, I don't think we'll get into her because we've already discussed her on a previous show, but Michelle Rempel-Garner, I think, is still the big wild card in this race. Our Edmonton-based Alberta Legislative Bureau Chief, Rachel Emanuel, confirmed an exclusive story last week that she is actively kicking the tires, actively considering a run. I think she's probably closer to a decision now, but we're going to have to wait on some news on that front. But if she runs, she's definitely a big name. I'm not sure how competitive do you think she'll be? I'll start with you, Dave.
Well, I think she'll be competitive. She hasn't done badly down in Ottawa. She's wins her elections by huge amounts. But the critics will say, look, we've brought in high-profile Tories from Ottawa before, and look how it's worked out. There's a failure with Kenny, a failure with Prentice. Why do we need another Ottawa-based person to lead the party? But you know what? She'll attract interest, no doubt about it. She'll be right in there amongst the leaders.
Corey?
Yeah, she's got an automatic profile, but I mean, we kind of, we were talking a little bit about that before. She's taken some really way out there stances recently, which some people say, oh, that's good. It's your own person and it's crazy. But in reality, you alienate a whole lot of people every time you take a fringe stance on anything, or I wouldn't call fringe, but a defined one, as many as you gain. So, I mean, she was part of the Buffalo Declaration, which was almost quasi-secessionist for the West. And then she went on that bizarre thing about apologizing for being white. She kind of bounces back and forth. And it's not that she gained a bunch of supporters on each side in those things when she did that. She lost a bunch over here and lost a bunch over there. So she's really going to have to define who the hell she is. Mm-hmm. To build a base of support, and it can be done, but she's going to have to get on that because nobody quite knows where Michelle lands these days.
Yeah, but she's got the name recognition, right? All three of us couldn't pick out that cabinet minister we were talking about in the police lineup,
which is quite an edge off the bat. There's no doubt.
Which she's got a huge problem that she's going to have to overcome, which Michelle Rempel doesn't.
And she is razor sharp. She is smart, and she is a legendary organizer, and that in internal party races matters a hell of a lot. The ability to sign up members, mobilize them, and get them to vote. And she is incredible at that. I think it is a bit strange. I still can't really figure out why she's went with the Patrick Brown campaign, but it was a huge win for the Patrick Brown campaign, and everyone recognized that. I'm not sure really her talents are going to be put to good use in that kind of campaign because it's just, it's a purely ethnic targeted campaign. It's not trying to actually win over people who ideological or partisan conservatives in any sense. But she's smart. She's a good organizer. I think that, she'll definitely have some political branding issues to work out. Like, where does she stand in the party? These issues you've talked about. But I wouldn't underestimate her. Her organizational abilities and her wit is going to make her challenging, I think, if she gets in. Okay, well, before we go, I want to thank all of our Western Standard members. If you want independent and bailout-free media that doesn't get funded by the government, you got to pay for it. That means we have sponsors, and that means we need people to become members of the Western Standard. It's only $10 a month or $99 a year, give you unlimited access to all Western Standard content. We've got a very large and growing team of reporters right across the West and on Parliament Hill that I know you want to support, I know you want access to. If you want to follow things like the UCP leadership race, the Conservative Party of Canada leadership race, a lot of the biggest scoops are coming from Western Standard reporters, and you need access to it. So go to westernstandard.news, click on membership, and become a member. You're going to thank me for it later. I guarantee you. You're going to love it. All right. That's it. That's all. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Corey. It's been a slice, and God bless.